What's up, guys? This is what if Issei was the son of Sadao Maou. Now, in this version, Sadao, he gets moved over to the McDonald's over in Kuo. His manager said, "You're the new manager over there. Good luck," and basically sent him off. As this was basically a full 2 years after the events in canon, while he became the manager at his own place, and then he became the manager over there. Now, this is when Emmy wound up actually being moved there as well. Through her calling line, they wound up moving her there. And then, surprisingly enough, his, at this time, wife, what was her fucking name? You know what, I just call her Chi, because her full name is really hard to pronounce. So anyway, Chi, and that's actually the girl from canon, you know. She's now 18, because in canon she was 16 and had a crush on Maou. At this point, she is a full-grown woman. By full-grown, I do mean full-grown. She is moved out and is done with school. She started working full-time at McDonald's, and at this point, being that Sadao is now the, manager and married to her, they wound up moving together. Now, she's fine with there being a harem. Now, there's also that other girl, the girl who's always wearing that fucking yukata. Yeah, she joins them as well. All of them decide to move all the way to Kuo. And the first 3 days, Sadao has gotten 90% of his magic back since, same people who hook up Emmy with her magic, with her celestial force, found a way to do the same shit with magic. Although the liquid form for magic is actually more along the lines tasting like beer and does more kick in the fucking jaw. Now, at this point, he's kind of gained 90% of his magic, and if he wants to, he can go into his buff form. Though, admittedly, he wound up deciding to keep in his buff form, since he now can't really turn it off. It will turn off if he runs out of magic, though. Since he basically now keeps it at his full force form, and has to drink 2 of these a day, or else he'll drop back into his normal form, and run really low on magic, because the amount of magic it takes to do what he does daily. That's mainly... Well, really, he just has to drink 2 of them daily to maintain his magic for the amount that it takes to stay in his normal form. Now, granted, he does modify it a little bit, taking the horns away, but he still, and shrinks just a little bit down, but he's still a big, buff dude. Easily towering its, I'd say, 6'7", 6'8". His full form is 7'2", though, in this version. Now, fun fact about this one, after, Emmy would actually find a spell to merge bodies. That chick with the black hair, that one that has the hammer, and basically Chio, Emmy, and the chick with the black hair all fused together for one night, and they all got pregnant by Sadao, since they wanted trying to do one-time thing, trying to do it all at once. Now, this is when Sadao would actually be very happy, give them his thing, and in the end, they got pregnant, all 3 of them. And when they all kind of got a third they all got pregnant, but in this version, instead of having 3 separate kids when they infused, they know that the baby stayed in one of the bodies. They weren't sure which one, but after a few months, they figured out exactly who it was. And it was actually Chi. Though, 9 months later, Issei is born. And he is, for lack of a better term, a fucking unit. Granted, he won't be as big or bad as he was at this point in canon. He's not a small dude. Hold on a second, guys. Sorry about that, guys. I just kind of lost focus for a second. A car just pulled up. Turns out it was my dad. And that was weird, so yeah. Also, if y'all ever want to try lifting something, don't use your back. Especially if it's a 5-gallon jug of water. You'll regret it. Anyway, back to what if. So yeah. Issei's doing his main thing. Actually, you know what? Refresh that. Once he's born, he has something that was unexpected. Sure, Sadao uses his magic and hits the doctor over the head to knock him out. not really knock him out, but change his memory of what happened. Basically making the doctor think that, oh, my mistake, it was just a normal baby. In actuality, Issei has these goat legs and demon horns, which Sadao actually has to seal those away, as well as a sword, Amelia's sword, which chose to actually no longer serve her. It's to serve Issei. Granted, it will serve her as well, but there is some that it also chose to fragments of it go to Issei as well. As well as a hammer that was his other mother's. Forgot her name. Anyway, back to What If. So as Issei basically was young, he was stronger than other kids. And a few days actually after Sadao moves, after about the age of 3, Sadao meets someone he wasn't expecting. The power that was ominous, along the line of his own, at full force. And even though Sadao wasn't quite at full force right now, that didn't really change anything. He could fight. Now, this is when Sadao would actually open up. Hold on a second, guys. So, like I was saying anyway, guys, even though Issei is just a kid, at the age of like 4, I'm gonna say, is when Sir X kind of clued in there's someone of his own strength at his sister's territory. This is when Rias would actually say, "Brother, what's wrong with my area?" So would, sow in a sea tree. And being that they're 5 and he says only 4, this is when they were completely honest. Well, there's someone of strength relative to my own there, and I'm going to go check it out. And I feel there's multiple others of around the same. That's because at this point, she has learned how to use magic and spirit force, or whatever the fuck it was. Because she had nothing else to do, really. Now, at this point, there was a slight surprise. Sir Zex did something no one was expecting. The first thing he was expecting, he was going to check on who the fuck this guy was. And he found him alone, away from his family, and he says, "Hello, sir. I'd like to know, who the hell are you?" This is when Maou would say, "Excuse me, but I don't think we properly know each other. My name's Sadao Maou. I don't think you should be talking to me in such a rude manner." And this is right after he got off work and he was walking home on one of his only nights when she had the day off. This is when, surprisingly enough, 2 other demons would appear. Lucifer, as well as what was his fucking name? Sadao's right hand. Osriel or whatever the fuck it was. He appears right behind Sir Zex, as well as the 3 demons would appear behind Sir Zex. This is when you hear, "So who the hell are you?" by Sadao Maou, as they all use their demon form. Sadao slightly growing in size, with his muscles really bulging out. I'm going to say his muscle form is something he doesn't really show often. He does have a miniature muscle form. Is what he usually stays in, because of the amount of magic he usually uses. His larger, more muscular form is something he really hides, which turns his leg into the goat legs and turns his head into horns. So yeah, this is when Sir Zex would say, "Oh, so I take it you're some stray devil." This is when Maou said, "Hell no. I'm the Demon Lord, Maou." This is when Emmy would actually appear behind him with her sword drawn, saying, "Who dares attack Sadao?" And this is when you hear them both say their names. Everyone say their names. "I am his right hand," as Ariel or whatever. Aria or whatever the fuck it was. And this is when Lucifer would actually use his wings, "And I am Lucifer." This is when Sir Zex would say, "I'm Sir Zex Lucifer." Lucifer saying, "What the hell? What are you talking about?" This is when they actually talk to each other. This is when they all stop, and this is when Maou says, "Wait, are you from Inte Isla?" The hell's an Isla? It's another world. It's where we come from originally. In that world, I'm the demon lord, the strongest demon, and these are my two generals. Saying their names, saying, "No way. I am the demon lord here." Huh? And you're a Lucifer. Was there a sadao maou? And was there a maou in the past? No. It's always been led by the Lucifer faction. This is when the actual Lucifer started laughing, saying, "Really? So in your world, named Lucifer actually is some big shit, ain't it?" And this is when Mao said, "Dude, calm down. Fine." This is when, surprisingly enough, Sir X would say who they all are and what about demons and everything. Saying, "Wait, this world has magic too? We've been getting a shit from Isla." This is when Sir X would say, "What?" As he showed them a bottle of magic, they said, "What the hell?" Sir X saying, "Could I study this?" This is when Sadao said, "Alright. Are you willing to pay something for it?" What do you wish?" Since this is concentrated magic, drinking it would basically quadruple your amount of magic and increase it to a point as if you didn't have any at all. Before, you could go into the point where you're on the level of about an 8-winged demon. Explaining this, Mao says, "Huh, and I have to use this stuff to keep up anywhere near my original magic. Wait, what's your original magic?" As he showed his full force. This is when Lucifer actually stepped back, saying, "What the hell? Yeah, Ninja Isla, I'm the strongest guy. My wife, Emmy, actually was the one who defeated me." Wait, what? And this is when he explained he has 3 wives. Chio, Emmy, and the last of which, I don't know what the name of that black-haired girl was. Anyway, explaining this, this is when they would say, "Wow, for a demon lord, even most demons' harems are not this surprisingly broad. A human who learned the power of both the devil and the hero, a hero, and an assassin. Wow." This is when Matt would say, "Whatever, man. By the way, if you come at me again like that, I won't hesitate to kill you." So Zach starting to laugh, saying, "You think you could kill me?" Stepping 1 foot forward, actually surprising Mao, and this is when they both show their full force. They both look dead even in power. This is when, surprisingly enough, Emilia, or I think it's Emilia, yeah, Emmy, as I'm going to keep calling her, is the one who actually breaks up the fight, saying, "Enough!" And this is when Gravey would actually appear next to Sir Zex, saying, "What's going on?" Emmy explaining how, the boys are just about to fight. Who's the stronger demon lord? Mao, calm down. Mao stepping back, saying, "Alright, well, listen up. My kid is here, and I don't have to rebuild the city because me and you got into a little fight." "What do you mean your kid is here?" This is when he explained how the assassin and Chio are at his house. This is when Lucifer this is when Sirzex would say, "Well, this area does belong to me and the Grimmery domain, as well as Sirzex, as well as the sea tree." This is when Mao would say, "Look, dude, I just got scheduled here to work for McDonald's, and I'm the manager, I'm the actual manager at the McDonald's, or as he calls it, McRonald's, since that's the name of it there." Sirzex would say, "Oh, I see. Well, then answer this real quick." "Yes, what is it?" "So, would you like to join my peerage?" "No." "What? But I have 8 pawn pieces open for you." "I don't care. I don't want your peerage, man." Would it not be good enough for you?" "Of course not." "Explain, please." "I'm not going to go from a demon lord to someone's personal fucking assistant, even if you are another devil. Even if you are this world's demon lord. By the way, there's magic in this place, correct? Then why has it been so hard to replenish my own?" This is when he explains, "Well, have you been trying to use the magic of this world?" "No, I've been using my own for my world." That explains why. As this is when Sir Zex actually taught him something that he wasn't expecting. Stop focusing on it just being in your body and focus as if it was all around you. This is when he understood. There was areas where there was way more magic than he was expecting. He's had to try finding them. This is when Mao would say, thank you. Anyway, nowadays, I think it'd be better if me and you more got along. As this is when Mao would actually state that for his own child, for his little sister, and his own. And I'm going to say at this point, actually, no, it would be 2 years later. So at this point, he would say, for my little sister, I must refrain from fighting you, or else one of us may die. A few years later, when Issei is around the age of 5, he would actually be playing with Rias and Sona. They all, at this point, grew up together, and at some points, going into his demon form, Mao would never really teach Issei to hold back if it was ever his life was in danger. He told him if his life was ever in danger to use his full force. This is when 4 fallen angels would attack them. They were just random fallen angels, not the ones from canon, as well as 4 devils who would wind up joining sides. They all wound up trying to attack the kids. This is when Issei, with his full power, would be unleashed. And these were all, in this version, 4 wings. That's stronger than Rias. At this point, Issei's eyes opened wide with rage, as the girls went over to play around somewhere else. While Issei said, "Could y'all go for a second?" As he basically said, "Come out now." Actually, I'm going to say he was 6 years old when this happened. At the mere age of 6, he said, "Enough." As his eyes would open wide with rage, pure bloodlust would be out of them. As his horns appeared and his feet turned goat-like, even wings appearing on his back, he looked down. As even his muscular features grew to the point where they were almost rivaling his own father's in his demon form. This is when, even though he was only 6, he looked like a beast. He looked to the devils and said, "Be gone," erasing them from existence with a single blast of magic. He looked to the Fallens, and they actually went to throw light spears for him, just send them flying backwards, saying, "Pathetic, you're not even close to the strength of Uncle Lucifer, or Uncle Sir Zex. Now be gone, worthless insects." As the dust would start to blow away, Reese would actually say, "You did that, you killed so many monsters. You killed so many demons and fallen angels." This is when Mao and Sir Zex would actually appear behind their children, they're right behind Issei, saying, "What's happened? Where's the danger?" This is when Issei would actually start shrinking down from his regular form. Mao actually having to catch him, saying, "What happened, son?" Reese and Sona then explaining, he fought off 8 creatures, 4 devils and 4 fallen, all having 4 wings. Sir Zex saying, "What the hell? Deviators from my faction, and from Azazel's," as they call Azazel up. Azazel saying, "Hello, what's up?" Explaining what's going on, telling Azazel to get over there. Azazel appears in about 10 seconds flat, saying, "What?" Showing his 10 wings. Lucifer even said something unexpected. Holy shit, Azazel has 10 wings? 12 wings? What the fuck, man? Does that mean he's way stronger than me? This is when Mao would say, we'll go off their rules, man. Your 2 wings probably make you on the same level, actually. This is when Azazel would say, 2 wings, and he thinks he's as strong as me. I don't know who you are, kid, but I don't think you're that powerful. As this is when Lucifer's eyes would open with rage and showing his full power, overwhelming that of even Azazel, saying, "Don't call me kid." Surprising even the fallen angel commander. Anyway, back to What If. Now, at this point, we're going to do a time skip, because this is right whenever Gravy had said she was pregnant with Milikith. And Issei said, "Does that mean I'm going to have a nephew?" This is when Gravy would say, "Yes, it does, Issei." And this is when Mao would even talk to Sir Zex about maybe Rias and issei might marry each other one day. Them being all for this, actually promising to marry each other. Sony even said, I don't want to be left out of the picture, and asked him to marry issei as well. Issei seeing no problem with this, marrying 2 girls, since he has 3 moms. Actually saying, deal. And this is when, surprisingly enough, Sir Zex and the house leader of C-Tree would say, I don't know about this. Even the leader of Grimory, Rias' dad, would say, I'm not sure that's going to be a good idea, Issei. You have to prove yourself before that. As this is when Sir Zex would actually remind them, you do realize he's the only reason these 3 that they're still alive, right? Reminding them of the incident that took place about 2 days ago. Them saying, well, if it's what they all want, I'll allow it. Though Sir Zex not really certain about his father's words. This is when the C-Tree father said he'd have to beat my daughter in a game of chess first. Issei then said, alright, let's play. Sitting down where he would usually play against his, his uncle, Azrael or whatever the fuck it was. And this is when he would actually say, I'll play a little bit with my uncle. Let's play. And this is when the C-Tree father looked at this, noting his daughter lost about 2 moves. This is when he said, if you want to marry my daughter, you have to defeat me. Sitting right down in front of Issei, it took him 3 moves. Actually, no, not 3 moves. It took him about 2 minutes to win. The devil, confused, saying, how the hell did a kid beat me? I'm a master of this game. What the fuck? This is when Issei said, you lose, I win. You know what this means? This is when he said, fine. If it's what my daughter wants, I'll allow it. Rias saying she just wanted to marry him, and there wouldn't be any games. Issei said, aw, can we play hide and seek anyway? The kids all go to play again. And we'll do a time skip. At this point, Rias is in high school. And she had long since this stopped keeping in touch with Issei because they were just too busy. At this point, Mao actually has peerage members being his own harem, his knights both being taken up by Emmy, his rooks both being taken up by that girl with the hammer, his bishops both being taken up by Chio, and his pawns being split between his 2 acting generals, 4 to one, 4 to the other. As this is when at this point they show their full force and how they can actually keep fighting, as this is when you see that they're doing a middle of a training session with Sir Zex and his peerage. At the end, there's only 2 people left. Oh, and don't think I even forgot about the queen piece, being that the queen would actually be, I'm surprised enough to say this, but I'm going to say it was, that manager. The manager from his old work. And if you're wondering why the manager got queen, just because. Or you know what? No. Instead of being 4 pawns to each of those 2 the 2 generals of the demon army, Lucifer actually was the one who got 8 pawns, while the queen piece went to whatever his name was with the A. Hold on a second. Yeah, I'm not going to figure it out. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, at this point, they've actually finished their, thing. And at this point, there's only 2 people really left. As the final pieces are dropped, they were both the pawns. They were the pawns of each group. As this is when you see Mao and Sir Zex in their full forest forms, big and muscular, and a mist of cloud, as they fight at enough force to shatter the world they're in. Luckily, they're in the, raiding games world, Now, this is seen as the 5th Demon Lord, the truest king, if he's able to defeat Sir Zex. And he does. He barely defeats Sir Zex right before he falls to the ground out of magic, hitting the floor, having to take a drink because he needed to replenish his magic. So at this point, Issei doesn't really care much for the demon world because he hasn't really spoken to Rias or Sona in like 2 years. They both kind of kept in somewhat touch with him until they all just got way too busy. Their parents still talk a lot, and he wouldn't mind seeing them again, but he just hasn't been able to see them in a long time. This is when, surprisingly enough, he's going to school. When he caught wind of something he wasn't expecting, he got in trouble for being a pervert. Doing the same perving out that he did in canon, this is when he would start walking to student council for the first time he'd ever been, stuck going to them, not caring if they didn't even think it'd be a big deal. It's basically what he saying, alright, whatever, I'm stuck here because I got in trouble. What's my punishment? Hold up. Sona Citri, is that you? Yes, and and you are an Issei Hyodo, correct? And this is when Issei said, correct. Do you remember who I am? Why would I remember you? Do you get in trouble often? This is when he said, think back to when we were kids. Dang, you're heartless. Wait. Issei. I remember. As her face turned bright red, saying, it's been years. So, honey, what's going on? As he said, aw, you remembered our promise. I'm going off the rules of the family. Not saying anything, as this is when Rias would actually get told by Sona, yo, he's here. At this point, Issei already has his peerage pieces. Granted, he'd actually have to become a full-blown devil, but being that his father is one, and he was debating about turning Issei into one of his own pieces for this, but deciding not to, since he'd already lived thousands of years. And the only reason Maou even got pieces was because he heard that they would make them stronger, and they decided, sure, we're already with you all the time. So yeah. At this point, Maou would actually do something unexpected. He would have his final sparring session with his son, holy sword in his son's hand. The full one. Emmy wound up dropping the sword and giving it to Issei for a moment. The sword bonding with him perfectly, saying, it shows its new wielder. But it still could summon to her hand if she wanted to, noting that if she did summon, it was quite difficult to do, though. As this is when Issei would actually fly forward at his father, at both being in their full demon form. Issei's having a little bit more of a hair color difference than Mao's. Instead of it just being the brown-haired Issei, it's all of his hair colors changes to the colors of his mother and even his father, as well as his uncles. As he flies forward with rage in his eyes, he's able to connect one solid swing that shatters almost reality as Issei and Maou start clashing for the first time by full force. It was already decided who was stronger. Through the first punch, they could all tell who had the strength advantage in this thing, but the speed advantage wasn't the same. Maou was grantedly stronger than Issei, but not by very much. I'd say that Issei was just weaker than Sir Zex in his full power form. And his magic, while not being great, was able to keep him up in the fight, for spell-wise. As Issei does his own father's best spell, the punch, as he put all the magic behind it, 100 ruins would appear behind it. Maou using 100 as well, their punch would clash, sending them both flying, Issei stopping and looking eye to eye with his father as they went to clashing again. After a almost 2-hour fight, Issei surprisingly won the fight by a hair. Sorry about that, guys. Just had to go deal with some stuff because no one else apparently in my entire family knows how to wash a fucking dish. Anyway, back to what if. So yeah. As this is when Issei starts, walking around. He would have a peerage thing, but at first he'd have to need to be turned into a devil. Which Zex is willing to do, but he doesn't really quite know how. They'd have to make him at least a servant to someone first. Mao really didn't need to, since they just infused him with demon power, but even if they did that with Issei, I'm not sure if it would work. Now, like I said, Issei just beat the shit out of Mao by barely. While Mao was physically stronger, Issei was lighter on his feet with the abilities more of a knight. While another one of his mother's power, the rook power from his mother with the hammer, allowed him to bring down a hammer right on his father's face a few different times. And being that he's stronger than both, he only knew how to really use his father's ability, but he was as fast as his mother, maybe even faster. That's the only reason he was able to beat his father. Now back to What If. As Issei learned that Rias was still there too, as he wound up seeing her one day when he was just chillaxing with his friends. Now, in this version, Issei is not some scrawny kid. His muscles are massive. Closer to his father in his demon form, but Issei really doesn't need his demon form to have pretty decent musculature. He looks closer to his father as his father did a few years ago, a long time ago, when he was first using his demon power, when he could first regain it. He looks somewhat like that. Now, back to What If. As Issei would then proceed to do something no one expects at all. He sees Rias, and Rias sees him. They recognize each other a little bit. Issei has his regular brown hair, but with a slight bit of each of the color of his parents, going down in bangs over his eyes. Just being small, like little lines full of those different colors right above his eyes. And his father's even included, and his uncle's even included in that color scheme because of the little bit of magic they had to input of their own to help with, the processes of birth. Because giving birth to a demon would be difficult as shit. Anyway, back to What If. Now, this is a point whenever Issei would do something no one really kind of would expect. He would actually go upstairs to Rias, knock on her door, Rias saying, "Come in." Issei saying, "Rias, it's been so long, how you been?" Rias saying, "Issei, is that you?" "It is." "You haven't changed much, have you?" "Not quite." This is when he goes into his form with every one of the devil of Rias' peerage in the room. They all bring up their power and actually put it against Issei. A sword right towards his throat, caught by his own sword. A punch that he caught with one of his hands. A lightning bolt that he just straight up basically blew away. He sent all of this flying saying, "Rias, it's been so long. Did you just throw away my entire peerage's attacks?" "Yes." "How strong are you now?" "About as strong as my father." "Why?" "So does that mean you're as strong as Sir Zex?" Just about. Because Sir Zex and Mao are like dead stalemates for strongest. Sir Zex just not being as good physically as Mao is. Now, Issei is only slightly faster than his father, not quite as strong, so his speed was really what gave him that little bit of a victory over his old man. At this point, Issei then said, "Yeah, I'm finally the strongest devil, I guess. Not physical strength-wise, but combat-wise, I guess." This is when she asked, how well did he think he'd fare against Sir Zex? This is when Issei would say, "Honestly, it wouldn't be much of a fight." This is when all of Rias' spirits say, "Wait, Sir Zex wouldn't be much of a fight to you?" "Yeah, not really." "What next? Are you saying the mighty Mao couldn't kill you?" "Of course not." "What do you mean? He's my father." That explains the look. At this point, Mao actually becoming being known as the strongest demon lord. Second being Sir Zex, though admittedly that title kind of varies between the two of them. One will become the strongest one day, the next will be the strongest the next day. It just goes between the two all the time. It's basically more on how they feel at this point. At this point, Sir Zex actually gave him the ability, taught him to be, showed that Mao, whenever he went to the demon world, the demon realm, how his magic was completely replenished. Mao using these magic circles all the time, and actually opening a few different gates into Isla, leading back, talking to a few of his old army members, to a lot of his army. Now, at this point, Mao is obviously the strongest, barely. At this point, it being huge news that Mao was defeated by someone, the entirety of heaven started laughing, saying, oh, without their strongest, they can't do anything. Wait, it says the one who defeated him was his own son. And afterwards, he got hit with the phoenix tear. Fuck. The entire heaven was pissed off, since now instead of just having to deal with the 4 Lucifers like they had to deal with so many years ago, now they have to deal with the 5 Lucifers. I mean, the five devils, the 5 demon kings, and the 1 absolute next demon king. Now, this wouldn't be easy for anyone to do, much less people who didn't have the aid of anything else. This is when a few members of the... This is when actually, you know what? Yeah. That one girl would still ask out Issei being as smart as his father, saying, sure. And this is when he actually described her to his uncles, as well as his mom, and just dad. They all saying, oh, really? As they all geared their fists, saying, as Lucifer said, sounds like one of them fallen angels. Just don't kill them too hard, dude. This is when he said, oh man, Uncle Luce, what am I supposed to do then? Well, if you're going to attack, use only your physical attacks. Don't rely on your gear. And this version, Issei still has the gear, and he actually awakened it around a few years back, whenever he was just practicing with his dad in a fight. Already able to go into Balance Breaker and even control Juggernaut Drive. Since Juggernaut Drive at this point to him is more along the lines of just him going into his bigger form. Now, he probably won't use it unless he absolutely needs to, which he really won't. This is when Issei would actually start, doing his thing. He would go on that date. In this version, all 4 of them did this, and they drank one of these vials of magic. They could put even the weakest devil, the weakest fallen. They even found some celestial force. Drinking one of each of these, their bodies start feeling crazy, noting if they were to drink 2 at once, it would usually knock them clean out, but because they were 2 different power sources, they were just like 2 huge tanks of energy for them. Them all 4 then attacking Issei, saying they need him to die for what their plans were. Issei simply just brushed it off, saying, you knew who I was. You knew what I could do. And you still thought it would be a good idea to attack the true Demon King. Making everyone back up just a little bit. This is when Issei would say, too late. You cannot run from me. Scarily enough, Issei decides to do something no one expected. Issei hit them all with 1 hit of his brute force. Sadly enough, ripping apart his shirt. As they threw their max attacks, while he could easily block it and slap it away, his clothes could not. So his shirt was absolutely blown away. His legs showed their hooves. He showed his hooves. And his body grew much more dangerous and demonic. His horns matching his father's, but with slight hinges of red on his hair and all the other colors, as well, spiking more out. This is when Issei would say, enough. Sir Zex and Mao would actually stop what they were doing in the underworld, and this is when they said, Issei. Collectively on the other side of the underworlds, though, as they both decide to teleport over there, they see an Issei going full power without his boosted gear, looking down at 4 pathetic fallens whose wings reach 12 each. This is when they start laughing. This is when all 4 of the fallen turn their heads, seeing that there's the 2 strongest demon kings are laughing at them. What are they gonna do? As they were all 4 blown backwards by Issei's punches. Dona being laid completely on the ground. Kalawinner basically hanging from a tree by her waist after she got sent flying. Rainier is literally in the water of the fountain, and Middled is basically laying down, face tooted, with herself tooted up. Basically completely knocked out. This is when Issei would say, oh, y'all missed the fun. as they were able to somewhat look at the demons, but not very easily. This is when they called Azazel and everything and asked what's going on. This is when they actually said, "Our leader is Kokabeel. Don't kill us, please." As this is when something unexpected would happen. They actually threw a light spear clean through Issei's chest in their full force form. Donaseek doing it, which almost ripped him in half, though he looks like he can still somewhat be alive. Though he would usually need healing magic after such something so stupid. But noting he just consumed 4 bottles of this stuff, which 2 bottles could hurt you very badly and almost kill you. 4 bottles which should instantly kill you. Though Donaseek could still somewhat stay alive, looking at this as a win, he said, "You're nothing anymore." He said, then looking at him saying, "Wrong." As his body completely healed, looking down at them saying, "Is that all you could do?" As this is when Issei would, basically used his ability to get one of them talismans, calling Rias. Actually offering Rias something that he would usually never offer. "Would you like to become my master?" Rias saying, yes, and getting on top of Issei's face, but asking if he needed any healing. Him saying, "No, I'll be fine." But he really wouldn't use it as anything against, sleeping with Rias. So they lay in bed one night, and they basically wake up the next morning with Zona saying, "Issei, how could you? You joined Rias' peerage?" This is when Issei said something unexpected. "No, I did not." "But what? Wait, how?" "I didn't join her peerage. All I did was decide that she needed some help, so I decided to help her. I will be joining her peerage soon, but I have to say goodbye to some of the things I really like." "Like what?" As he took his holy sword out, saying, "Goodbye. You've served me well." As he was ready, taking the 8 pawn pieces, them all mutating on his, as they didn't mutate, but surprisingly enough, they should have. Asking what this was about, he said, "Don't worry, they just fused with my king piece." "Wait, what?" "I decided to become a devil a long time ago, so I have a king piece and a full peerage. But I'll only ever use this king piece. The king piece goes to me. Being that I'm using it as if it was another pawn, as though it was so much stronger, it fused in with all them. It's the only thing that allowed you to do that, Rias." "Wait, really?" "Yes." Hold on a second. Okay, sorry about that, guys. My little brother just won't stop pestering me now. So let's get back to What If. As this is when Issei would actually go back to, doing his thing. Telling them that that's why he would actually be able to be taking those pawns and actually be able to become her servant. As he showed that his wings were actually 12. In an unprecedented moment ever recorded in history, the first one ever to actually have this special event happen, another set of wings would pop out of his back, as Sona's 3 pawns flew to his chest and went in there. As well as Ravel, all 8 of her pawn pieces flew to Issei and went into Issei's chest. Issei saying, "What the hell? Whose pawns are these?" As Ravel would actually appear, wondering where the hell her pawns went, as she said, "Where'd my pawn pieces go? Rias, could you help me find them?" Rias actually pointed to Issei saying, "They must have chose to go to a worthy person," as this is when another set of devil wings appear on his back, this time with flames on them. Her saying, "What the hell?" As Issei starts laughing, saying, "Sorry about that, little one." As this one, she sees that Issei doesn't just have 12 demon wings. He's got more, and then one set of wings that don't even look demon. They look bulkier, as if they were mixed between demon and dragon wings in their world. This is when he said they were the wings he was born with. His demon king wings. Actually explaining that the other sets of wings were just add-ons, I guess. Noting that this meant that he actually had the most wings in ever recorded history. Issei saying, "Wait, really? Usually the max is 12, but because no one's ever been able to reach higher. Not even Sir Zex." This is when Issei wondered what his full power was, and threw a single punch to the sky, almost shattering the moon. Though stopping clean in what he was doing, he actually said, "Wait, as he instantly just repaired the moon. His magic was easily replenishable even in the human world. Now, this is when he started laughing, saying, "I've done it. I've done what no one ever has done before. I am the strongest." As this is when Zex and Mao would feel this power and actually teleport over to Rias, saying, "What's going on?" Feeling the power, this is when he said, "Issei, what the fuck are you doing?" Yelling at Issei what he was doing, wondering what the hell he was doing. Issei then saying he was just testing his new power after he became a devil. Sir Zex is there, and Mao, they said, "What?" Saying that these were his three masters. It took all three of their both of their sets, and then this one's three, to even make him a pawn. And though it took all those pieces, they didn't even need to be sealed. This is when Rias would say, and his king piece as well was needed. This is when Issei would say, yeah. And this is when Mao would say, "Son, you're a pawn now." This is when he said, "But you're also," at this point, as he was promoted instantly to a high-class devil. Though he wasn't really known by any of the names, only the Mao clan, which is literally translates to Demon Lord, so they're literally the Demon Lord clan. As this is basically when Issei showed his full force, looking down at everyone saying, "I have the unprecedented ability," showing his full wings, even one phoenix wing, because of, Ravel. As this is when he shows all his wings out, saying, "I am Issei Hayato, or as you may know me now, Issei Mao, the strongest demon lord." As this is when Issei basically set upon his throne, though, being that Riser didn't know exactly who the fuck Issei was at all, he heard the announcement, but he thought that Issei was a common name and didn't think it'd be a big deal if he was even, do his thing. And he didn't know that Rias was actually engaged at this point, and Rias, his father, was actually forced to marry her off to Riser. This is when, surprisingly enough, Rias would actually appear in his bed one night, in front of him, asking him to sleep with her. Issei saying, "Alright," as he goes into his demon form, as this is when Grafey would appear, actually picking Issei up by his throat, and slamming him to the back of his wall, going clean through it, onto the ground behind him. He said, "Ow, Grafia, one good reason why you just did that." This is when she would actually say she's already engaged. Issei. This is when Issei said, "We've been engaged for years." Well, her father decided to get her engaged to someone else. And this is when Rias would actually explain what's going on with Issei there. "Oh, really? Riser's older brother is doing this shit? Can I kill him?" This is when Grafia said, "By all means, go ahead. But he is immortal." This is when he started laughing, saying, "Does that mean he could beat Sir Zex or Mao?" "No, he'd instantly get his ass whooped." "Then he can't beat me." "Alright, I just gave you fair warning so you wouldn't think after ripping you in half he'd be dead. If ripping someone in half killed them, then I'd be dead by now." "What do you mean?" This is when he explained all his training. And he explained how he could instantly heal from anything when he flew his magic out of his body, through his body, into his bigger form. This is when she said, "Wait, does that make you basically as immortal as they are?" "I don't know. Anyway, let's go." The next day, Issei basically got there with Asya, and the reason I didn't mention the Asya thing first is because, while they did survive, they still tried getting Asya, just for Issei to basically pimp slap them away. And they were all ripped apart when that happened, as this is when Asya would actually wind up joining Rias. Back to What If, as Issei then proceeds to just walk around, wondering what the hell as he gets there, and the first thing he hears when he walks in the room, wearing nothing but a button-up shirt, and some blue jeans that have the stretchy feature for his legs, when they go demon form, you hear, "I, Riser Phoenix, am here. Riser has returned to the human realm." Issei saying, "You sound pretentious as shit, and you look weak as fuck." This is when you hear, How dare you? As he actually tried striking Issei. Issei just straight up slapping his hand away, saying, don't even throw a hand at me. I will whoop your ass faster than you can regenerate. Oh, like anyone could do that. Wait, you know I can regenerate? Your Riser Phoenix of the Phoenix House. If you couldn't regenerate, you'd be pretty fucking useless. Oh, really? You think you can talk to me that way, some peasant? Issei saying, you think I'm a peasant? Oh, okay, I'll let you believe that for now. As this is when Reese actually still set up the whole thing, and being that his dream is still to become, a harem king, this is when you hear the words that were never expected to be spoken. Sorry guys, just had to deal with my little brother again. But anyway, back to the video. As this is when we hear Issei would basically start laughing when Sir Zex claimed that he was already harem king, showing his entire peerage. This is when Issei pointed to Ravel, saying, "Hey Ravel, what's up?" This is when Riser would say, "How do you know my sister, peasant?" This is when Ravel would say, "This is Issei Hayoto, or Issei Maou." Riser saying, "Say what?" Issei Maou? As in, next Demon Lord? Son of Maou? Wait, what? You know, the guy who's considered, by all means, top 3 in the Devil Society? Oh, please, it's probably just because your father's name. You're probably not even strong enough to keep up with my weakest pawn. As basically the pawn flew forward to hit Issei with the bow staff. Issei actually going into his buff form, looking more like this version of Maou than expected. Basically, this look would go on him, as he would look down as the girl, as she hit him in the chest, well, in the abs, and it basically shattered her bow staff. Issei started laughing, saying, "Really? You might want to get her a better weapon. That one just straight up shattered on impact." This is when he actually looked over to Riser, saying, "Oh, and by the way, you really think that my dad's position gave me my power? Oh, please. True, I gained most of my strength from him, but this is when all the other wings on his back appear. Even a pair of phoenix wings, saying, 'What the hell, how'd you get those?' As he explained that he was actually also the pawn of Ravel. This is when Riser used his rank, saying, 'I am Ravel's king, and as you being her pawn, that means you must obey me.' He says, saying, 'I obey no one. Hell, not even Rias can get me to do what she wants me to do. Hell, Sir Zex can't do it. My dad even struggles too. Cocky brat. We'll do this raiding game, and I'll rip you to shreds.' Riser said, as he said, 'Oh, really? If I made your head roll around as a bowling ball, what would happen? It would hurt. But could that kill you? No. Would you feel every moment of it? Yes. Good. Just making sure.' As this is when he threw Riser a bottle. Riser saying, 'What the hell is this? Wait, is this that super drink? The thing that makes even devils powerful enough to fight? Any random devil strong enough to fight against the Maus? The 5 demon lords? For a moment? Yes. I figured you may need it. You're so weak.' This is when he said, 'I don't need this pish-posh,' throwing it right at Issei's face. As Issei would say, 'Aw, okay.' As to him, it's basically just another fucking drink, though. So, he basically says, 'Well, if you're not gonna drink it, I will.' As he downed the thing, saying, 'Oh, so good.' I knew my added thing to this drink would be better. Back to what if. As Issei would basically say, 'Well, anyway. Later, lame. Later, lame wad. Now, get out of my sight.' As Riser would walk away, right when Issei turned away from him, he would throw a fireball right at Issei's back, just for Issei to basically slap it away and punch Riser so hard in the face that he got knocked clean the fuck out. You may be immortal, but that doesn't mean you can't get knocked the fuck out. As Riser laid there knocked clean out, his peers basically teleports with him away, saying, after 2 minutes, he woke up saying, 'What the hell hit me?' This is when they said, 'That fireball did not work, sir.' Issei Hayoto, or Issei Maou, just beat the shit out of you with one punch. He knocked you out. He said, and I quote, "Immortal or not, one punch to the jaw can knock you out." So I just have to make sure he can't hit my jaw. Perfect. As this is when Issei would start laughing, saying, "I hope that worked, because I just used sleep magic on him." Because knocking out an immortal would be impossible. Hell. Didn't matter who it was. Knocking out a demon is so much more difficult, because even hitting him on the chin doesn't do jack shit. Hell, even if you got to the point where they got knocked out, most devils can get back up in almost an instant after getting knocked out like that. You have to beat him to the brink of death for him to go down. This is when Issei would do the training montage, with every one of with the peerage members. Even with Sona's peerage, training with them. At a few different times, Ravel would appear, teleporting to her pawn, saying, "I need to look after my pawn, don't I?" This is when Issei would say, "Your brother's just having you do this so you can, come at me." I refuse to say. That's when the next day the last day would come, and they would actually start doing the thing. For the raiding game, the first thing that happened is Riser goes to attack Issei just for Issei to straight break his arm, saying, "Back the fuck up." The entire peerage actually throwing attacks at Issei, just for Issei to straight slap them away. As Rias and Akano stood up above, they said, we've got the mages." And they sword out saying, "I'll take the knights." Konako getting her fist raised saying, "I'll take the rooks." Surprisingly enough, Asuya saying, with a magical sword in hand, I'm going to say it was a sword that Kiba made, saying, "Do your worst." As Rias and Akano basically took on the pawns and queen and one of the bishops, while Asio had to deal with the other bishop, though Issei basically gave her a drink of that stuff, as the holy energy, which basically was what she now uses. As she basically learned how to use that sword and materialize a sword of her own, Issei saying, "Good job." Though, granted, she didn't have perfect access over it. She could just down a bottle and have that much ready for a fight, but it was more like a tank of energy for her. She couldn't really replenish it on her own. Either she needed to have Issei refill it or one of the bottles to drink. But though she lives with Issei, so she can get a bottle in like 2 seconds flat. And she can get the actual thing in about just walking up to Issei and getting him to fill her energy up with about 1 second. So yeah, maybe 10 seconds if she needs to go get him. Anyway, back to what if Issei would go and easily knock Riser around like he was a ragdoll. This is when Issei is still in his normal human form, as Riser actually put a clean hole clean through Issei. As Issei started laughing, he goes to his demon form as his holy sword would awaken. This is when Riser would say, "Because of my immortal body, I can do this," downing 5 magic ones and 5 spirit ones, noting that it basically ripped his body open as he was throwing a single attack in a fit of rage, ready to kill someone. As he easily was able to throw a clean stab into cleanly attacks through Issei's body. So Issei said, "Oh, with that much stuff in your disposal, I'm amazed you were able to find it." Well, as he then grips his hand, as his magic would show fully out, as the boosted gear would awaken, saying, "Balance breaker." The arm basically completely stopping Riser's punch, saying, "Oh shit." Issei starting to beat the shit out of him, as Issei basically turned off the armor, saying, "Alright, you should have timed out your energy," as he basically just did one kick and knocked clean around Riser hit the floor dead. Though granted he wasn't fully dead, he was at the brink. Issei then had proceeded to basically just barely, leave him alive, as Ravel had been the one to jump in front of him, being that, she wasn't going to fight Rias. She wasn't planning on it, so she wound up not doing it. While the rest of Rise's peerage was there, knocked out, Ravel wasn't. She actually had been jumping. She actually wound up jumping in front of Issei, saying, "Please don't kill my brother, even if he is a scumbag. Please." And this is when Issei would say he has to surrender. Right when this happens, Riser uses full magic left to make a flame fireball and basically hit Issei right in the stomach with it, blowing a good portion of his stomach away. Issei looks down and basically would say, blowing out the fire, saying, "If that's all you could do, then you really think you could hurt me? You're a child. Now, out of my face. Child." With one slap, the pimp slapped into all pimp slaps, he tore the head of Riser off, spine and all, looking like a fatality. This pimp slap being so hard that it knocked that Riser, Issei went up grabbing Riser's head, forcing him back down into his body, where it was supposed to be, and actually said, "Now, go." Sending him away, he needed to get a phoenix tear on him so he wouldn't die. Granted, his immortality was the only thing keeping him from being dead instantly by that. As is when Issei said, he won't die. Just wish he was. For a few days. This is when Issei would actually solidate his proposal to Rias, with the entirety of the demon world hearing it. And at this point, Issei really not being a pawn to Rias anymore. He's the Red Dragon as well as the strongest demon lord, with a pair of dragon wings protruding out of his back now. Azazel, who's been close family friends with them for a long time now, and even close friends with their version of Lucifer, had decided to actually, grant Issei a gift, and gave him fallen wings that matched with it kind of matched Azazel's, and his uncles all gave him one of their own wings sets. At this point, Issei's wings are basically more than ever before, even getting every single type of wing he has to 12. Noting if he was to let all his wings out, it would look more like a protruding of feathers than anything, though he wouldn't be against that. He just really doesn't like showing his wings off. Though admittedly, he does something that was unexpected. When Eva had to fight with the Kokobeel, which would still happen, Kokobeel downed all this stuff, like 4 bottles of each, and actually was throwing attacks that would easily be overwhelming the original god. This is when Issei showed all of his wings. They all covered his body, and this is when they all covered everyone else. As it was basically a shield, all of his wings were burnt and broken. Not able to fly at this point, he just leaps in the air and cleanly gets to Kokobeel after all his wings were ripped to shreds, protecting everyone else. This is when the White Dragon would come down and grab Kokobeel and pull him out of there. The next few days, the same thing would happen where, they would have that meeting, and Gasper was still trained by Issei and all that. Though in this point, this is when something unexpected would happen. Issei would do something rare for even him. He would infuse a magic into a sword, reminding us a lot of when Maou had turned, when he went against that angel and turned a broom into a giant sword. Well, in this version, it was a regular sword turned into a monstrous demon sword, as he swung it one time down, knocking the armor clean off of the White Dragon, and actually completely pimp-slapping almost out of existence with one hand. This is when he looked down, saying, "You're weak." As he kicked him out of the way, saying, "I'm done." As he would actually wind up getting a holy sword, the Dragon Slayer, saying, "What's with this?" Michael saying, "It's my gift to you." Wow, it's the first gift that isn't just a pair of wings. Thank you. Wait, if you want, I can give you those too. As he snaps his fingers, and a cleanly white pair of wings would appear on Issei's back. Issei saying, "What the hell? Why did I just get angel wings?" This is when he would say, "Work well with them. You shall be the next one. Goodbye." Michael, explain yourself. As this is when he said, "God, why?" As he was actually about to get hit by one of those jolts of pain, but this is when he basically just looked This is when his body just wouldn't allow this jolt of pain and just basically didn't do anything to him. Wait, he just said God. He just said God without it hurting him. What the hell? As anyone else who tried saying it would get even a little bit hurt. Even his father wasn't able to just say it as much as he wanted, as much as he could. Since this is when issei would basically say, whatever, and go through his normal abilities. Even a few different times, just not giving a fuck. Now, the rest of the series really doesn't go anywhere like canon. Any threat just gets slapped away, and then the end, the only one who really is posing a threat is Cyborg in his buff form versus issei in their buff form. Even without the boosted gear or anything, no added speed just for punching power, even in that gear thing, Cyborg is outclassed in punches. Issei actually allowing the punches to go, flying one of his own, actually taking out the boosted gear, granting Drake his freedom. Drake basically being his noble steed to ride into battle with, because of which power as issei has, being above that of the original Dragon Kings, even heavenly dragons, approaching that of the even dragon gods. As issei rode with his sword in hand, well, swords, one sword in each hand, riding a back drag, he flew in on his own fight, with his final moment, going against the three factions all together in one sparring match. As he landed and he beat them all with his power, he would then say, "I have won." Them actually claiming him to be the new god. Issei, with this title, got a golden crown of thorns. Wondering where this came from, saying, "Don't you know the old myth of Jesus having a crown of thorns? It's the true thing of God, granting it to him." Issei then felt something odd. He felt different. He had all the abilities he ever could have. He felt like everything was at his fingertips. He even felt stronger. Them saying if someone was to become a god, or the god, they would be granted every ability. The speed, strength, power, mind, even the voice to back up whatever they said. Their mere words can shake the planet. Issei then said, alright, as his two swords would actually say, but I have one more person to fight. As he would go eye to eye with Great Red. Seeing Great Red saying, "What is it, heavenly dragon? How did you get out of your gear?" This is when Drake would explain that his new master had did it. "Oh, your master, ha. So who took you over? Are you that weak still?" Drake saying, "Actually, I'm stronger than I was that day. I'm close to the strength of Ophis now." "Really? Forgive me if I don't believe you're on the level of Ophis." Then saying, "And my master is on the level of you." As Ophis and Great Red would actually fly at issei and Drake, as Drake would basically land, issei basically completely sending them flying, saying, "You aren't even a threat to me." His attack basically evening him out right with Great Red, instantly being able to, after a few moments, actually defeating Great Red, saying, "Get up." Great Red being laid completely out, Ophis going to do her best attack, just for issei to send her flying out with a pimp slap. Them both being in their dragon forms, wound up bowing to issei and asking if they could be his noble steeds as well. Issei allowing this, as he was now the strongest creature in existence. As he rode atop Great Red, Ophis and Drake flew on the sides. Ophis on the left side and Drake on the right, as Albion wanted to go. This is when, surprisingly enough, that one dude, the White Dragon Emperor, would actually come up to Issei saying, "Issei, I want you to release Albion from me. He wishes to be free, and I can't take that from him." This is when Issei said, "Alright, I'm granting you to keep the ability of Divide. It's yours now." Snapping his fingers, Albion was let loose in his full form. Albion saying, "Yes, I am free. I am the strongest dragon remaining. If You three could be easily taken out by some boy. There's no way I'll lose. As he divided Issei's power 10 times, this is when he noted, it's like dividing infinity. What the fuck? It's worse than dividing the original Grey Red and Ophis against himself. What is happening? As he basically completely just slapped, as Issei completely knocked him out, him saying, "Forgive me, master." As Issei said, "No, I am no master to you." Pointing over to, what was his name? What was the wielder? The wielder of the dividing gear. Yeah, that guy. He would say, "This is your master, not me. You two need to train so you can even come close to my level." As he basically using his thorn, he put on his crown, saying, "If you ever wish to, just tell me. Goodbye." As he basically would walk away. This is when Volley and Albion would actually say, "He's let us live, and we will still live together." As in this point, the Chaos Brigade was completely dismantled, since Ophis really didn't be there. Wasn't there to lead it, even though the rest of the Chaos Brigade still was a thing. They were called the Chaos Brigade still, but anytime they would go to attack Issei would just say, "Vanish," and they'd be sent to the other side of the universe. At the end of this, having the dragon gods from other mythologies all at his disposal, Issei really was the truest god. As he restored his mother to being an angel, his mother, Emmy, his father, granted him back his ability to translate between worlds if it was nothing, and the rest of his family, he granted all their abilities back to full force. As this is now when Issei would say, "Alright." That's basically what happens. He keeps leading the world with his horns holding up his halo. Well, horn, because one of them's kind of messed up. Like Mao's is in this picture. Anyway, that's what if Sadao Mao was Issei's father.